Chosen one, listen closely. Something divine is unfolding right now. Heaven has paused, not in silence, but in sacred anticipation. There's a vibration moving through the atmosphere. Subtle, yet unmistakable. You felt it in the pit of your stomach, in the moments before sleep, in the tug that won't let you settle for ordinary life. That's not anxiety. That's the sound of heaven preparing to move through you. Every detail of your life has been under construction by unseen hands. You've wondered why doors closed, why opportunities disappeared right when you were ready. But heaven never delays without design. You were never waiting for a miracle, you were being made into one. Imagine a seed buried deep under cold soil. It looks lifeless, forgotten, but underground there's motion, roots forming, strength gathering. That's been you, hidden. Yes, but not idle. Heaven has been shaping your roots so your rise won't be shallow. There was once a young man named Eli. He served quietly, often overlooked, cleaning floors while others took credit for his work. Yet he kept his heart pure. He didn't chase recognition, he chased God. One morning, he woke up feeling something shift inside, a peace mixed with trembling. That same week, someone he never met opened a door that would change his life. Eli didn't force it. Heaven aligned it. You see, when your season arrives, obedience outruns effort. You're entering that kind of moment now. The invisible hand of God is about to turn what you thought was random into revelation. The storm that almost broke you was actually proof you were worth attacking. Darkness never fights the ordinary, it fights potential. Feel the atmosphere changing around you. It's like standing on the shore right before a giant wave hits. There's a brief stillness, a hush that tells you something powerful is coming. That's the pause you're in. Don't mistake it for inaction. Heaven pauses to position. There's a verse that captures this divine momentum perfectly. The voice of God thundered in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 1, verse 5. Look among the nations and watch, be amazed, for I am doing something in your days you would not believe, even if you were told. Let those words sink in. Something massive is unfolding that your mind can't yet comprehend. Heaven is not preparing a small surprise. It's preparing a move that will leave even your doubts speechless. You've survived seasons that others didn't understand because you were being trained for impact. God didn't forget you. He was formatting you. Every lonely night, every unanswered prayer, every tear on your pillow, it wasn't wasted. It was all part of the setup. Think of a volcano lying silent beneath the surface. For years, it appears still, but beneath, pressure builds, heat gathers, and magma churns. When eruption comes, it doesn't ask permission, it simply obeys its purpose. That's you, chosen one. You are the volcano about to erupt with divine purpose. Don't run from this pressure. It's your proof that something greater is near. Heaven doesn't invest this much tension in someone ordinary. You've been refined for responsibility. If you could see what's forming in the spirit right now, you would stop doubting yourself. Angels are moving. Alignments are forming. People you haven't met yet are being positioned to recognize what's on your life. The spiritual stage is being set, and you are the headline heaven has been preparing. This isn't a season of survival, it's the launch sequence. Everything ordinary is about to feel too small. Your prayers will shift. Your circle will shift. Even your perspective will shift. You'll begin to feel weight in your words, authority in your presence, and peace in your obedience. Take a breath and sense it, the sacred pause before divine acceleration. Don't fill it with noise. Don't rush it. Heaven is waiting for your yes. If this message touches something deep within your spirit, take a moment, share, and subscribe to stay connected to the flow of what heaven is building. And in the comments, type 111 as your prophetic sign of agreement. Let heaven see your number and know you're ready. The pause is ending. The movement has begun, and it begins with you. Heaven is shifting the ground beneath your feet. What once confined you can no longer contain you. The unseen pressure is breaking open new paths of glory and divine opportunity. Stand firm. Now your obedience is unlocking doors no human hand can touch. The wind of destiny is rising, and it carries your name. You were never random. The design of your life has always carried divine fingerprints. Long before you took your first breath, heaven etched your purpose into time. You may have wandered, doubted, or even felt invisible, but the truth is simple. You were always seen. You are part of a sequence of divine intention, not the result of coincidence. Every chapter that felt wasted was actually part of your preparation. The rejections that stung the most were the very hands of God redirecting your path. You see, destiny rarely moves in straight lines. It weaves through valleys, deserts, and storms, shaping endurance within you. What looked like detours were actually design. There's a reason the enemy tried to break you early. He saw what you carry before you did. He saw the potential in your obedience, the fire in your worship, the faith that would one day ripple through generations. That's why the attacks came in waves. It wasn't punishment. It was proof of your calling. Picture a craftsman sculpting marble. Every strike of the chisel seems destructive, yet each blow is measured. The marble doesn't understand it's becoming art. You, too, have been under the chisel of heaven. Every disappointment, every unanswered prayer, every not yet was carving purpose into your soul. There's a story about a woman named Naomi. She had dreams that dissolved, plans that crumbled, and loved ones she buried. She thought her story was over, but the same road that carried her loss also led her to redemption through Ruth, a reminder that divine design hides inside human despair. You are walking a similar road. The pain was never to destroy you. It was to uncover the gold beneath the ashes. You've been wondering why your timeline seems delayed while others accelerate. But heaven's clock is never slow. It moves by alignment, not by anxiety. God doesn't rush masterpieces. He crafts them in silence, in rooms no one sees, until the unveiling moment. And that unveiling is closer than you think. There is something sacred about divine timing. When God releases you into your next chapter, everything will make sense in a single moment. You'll realize that what you called loss was actually the removal of distraction. The people who left were never meant to walk in the next level of your anointing. The prayers that felt unanswered were actually stored, maturing like fine wine for an appointed time. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 9, a person's heart plans their way, but the Lord directs their steps. Let that truth rest in you. You plan, you dream, you move, but it is God who steers. Sometimes His redirection feels like rejection, but it's actually protection. The delay you curse is the same delay that's saving you from destruction. Think back to the moments when you almost gave up. Remember the nights when hope flickered like a dying candle, yet somehow light returned. That was no accident. Each time your strength ran out, heaven refilled it. Each time your heart broke, grace mended it quietly. Destiny is like a tapestry. Up close, all you see are tangled threads and knots. But step back, and you'll see patterns of beauty only God could design. That's why you had to go through what you did. It was necessary for the pattern to form. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are right on schedule for what heaven scripted. The enemy wants you to believe your pain was pointless. But God wastes nothing. Every scar, every setback, every silence carries divine meaning. There's something extraordinary about those who are chosen. They often feel misplaced in the world, too soft for chaos, too deep for shallow company. You felt that tension, haven't you? The feeling of being out of sync with your surroundings. That's the mark of divine design. Heaven made you to move differently. A diamond isn't found shining, it's found buried, hidden in pressure, surrounded by darkness. It looks ordinary until the right hands uncover it. You, too, are that diamond. Pressure has not destroyed you, it's polishing you. Every season of hiding was heaven's way of ensuring that when you are revealed, you shine without fear. And when your unveiling comes, you won't have to chase it. It will recognize you. Divine moments don't require striving, they require readiness. You are not waiting for opportunity. Opportunity is waiting for you to realize who you are. So, breathe. Stop comparing your path to others. Stop questioning your worth because of silence. The blueprint is unfolding exactly as it should. The same God who orchestrates galaxies has not forgotten the details of your story. Chosen one, you are the evidence that God's plans never fail. You are the living proof that divine design often disguises itself as delay. And soon, when the pattern is complete, you'll look back and understand that nothing was wasted. The hidden years, the silent seasons that no one claps for, you know them well, the times when your prayers echoed back unanswered, when purpose felt distant, and when heaven seemed quiet. Those were not wasted years, they were sacred classrooms. In silence, God taught you what noise could never reveal. Every chosen soul walks through a season of hiddenness. Before the oil is poured, there must be obscurity. Before crowns come calluses. You were hidden not because you were forgotten, but because you were being fortified. When God hides you, it's never to punish, it's to preserve. Think of Joseph, locked in a prison for crimes he didn't commit. The world saw a prisoner, heaven saw a prime minister in training. His gift of interpreting dreams was refined in darkness long before it reached Pharaoh's court. God often hides his most precious vessels until the world is desperate for what they carry. You, too, have lived behind closed doors while others advanced. It hurt. You questioned if you were disqualified, if your time had expired. But heaven whispers, I was building your roots while others were showing leaves. Then, the hidden years are like winter. Everything looks dead on the surface. Yet beneath the frozen soil, roots go deeper. Growth happens quietly, unseen by eyes, but known by heaven. And when spring comes, what emerges carries depth no storm can uproot. In your silence, God was speaking direction in your isolation. He was teaching discernment. The pain of being unseen was actually an invitation to intimacy, because when you lose every other voice, you finally learn to recognize His. The word of the Lord came through the prophet Hosea, chapter 6, verse 3. Let us press on to know the Lord. His coming forth is as sure as the dawn. He will come to us like the rain, like the spring showers that water the earth. What a promise! The dawn always comes. Rain never forgets the earth. It's meant to touch. Likewise, God never forgets the heart He's been shaping in private. Your hiddenness is not the end of your story. It's the soil of your next glory. There's a story of a man named Caleb. He served faithfully behind the scenes for years, while others received recognition. Yet when the moment finally came, heaven remembered him. At 85, he said with fire, "Give me this mountain." Hidden years didn't make him bitter, they made him bold. He learned that patience refines power. Chosen one, your hidden season has not been a pause, it's been a prophecy. Every unseen act of obedience has been recorded in heaven's archive. The silence you feared was God's sacred studio. He was composing the next movement of your destiny. You are like a lighthouse before the storm, standing still, unseen by many, yet carrying light for the appointed night. When the darkness finally comes, your illumination will prove why you were placed where you are. There's a holy stillness that only the hidden ones know. It's the quiet strength that doesn't depend on applause. You've learned to worship without witnesses, to believe without evidence, and to keep walking even when visibility is zero. That's faith refined. When heaven hides you, it's not to make you smaller, it's to make your revelation undeniable. People may have underestimated you because they couldn't see your preparation, but soon they'll realize why God kept you apart. You've been through the unseen battles, the inner wars nobody knew about, but every tear you shed in the dark was counted. Every yes whispered through trembling lips became fuel for your calling. You are no longer who you were when the silence began. When the curtain lifts, you won't just emerge, you'll reveal. The one who comes out of hiding is never the same one who went in. What felt like delay has been transformation. What felt like confinement has been cultivation. And soon, when heaven announces your unveiling, it won't be a quiet whisper, it will be a roar that echoes through every place that once ignored you. So hold this truth in your heart. God hides you before He highlights you, because He would rather protect your purity than promote your pride. You are about to step from shadows into spotlight, but the spotlight won't change you, because the shadows already shaped you. Type, "I'm still here." End of. It's not just a comment, it's a declaration. A reminder that despite the waiting, despite the silence, despite the unseen years, you never quit. Heaven says your endurance, and the season of unveiling is near. The breaking that built you, it's a phrase you now understand, not as poetry, but as survival. There were nights you thought your heart had reached its final fracture. You tried to keep faith steady while everything around you crumbled. Yet here you are, breathing. That alone is proof that grace was present. Even in the breaking, pain was never God's punishment, it was His permission. Permission for transformation. What He allowed to shatter was never meant to stay whole, because sometimes the shell must crack for the oil to pour out. Every chosen one experiences this sacred fracture. It's not destruction, it's design. the same way a seed splits before new life bursts through the soil. Your breaking became the birth of something eternal. You remember the moment it all came undone, the job that vanished, the friend who betrayed you, the silence that stretched longer than your endurance. It felt like loss. But in heaven's record, it was the moment construction began. God doesn't build on pride or comfort. He builds on surrender. Think of the potter and the clay. The clay has no say in how it's shaped. Only trust in the hands that form it. Sometimes, the potter crushes the vessel, not because it failed, but because it wasn't yet perfected. The same hands that pressed you down were the same hands that would lift you later. There's a story of a man named Jonah. He ran from God's direction, and when the storm rose, he thought it meant rejection. But in the belly of the fish, Jonah discovered something deeper: brokenness births clarity. He came out not just alive, but realigned. You, too, have been through storms that forced surrender. Not because God was angry, but because He was calling you home, in your lowest place. Heaven whispered truth through pain. You can lose everything, but if you still have me, you haven't lost it all. And breaking is heaven's language of rebuilding. It exposes what you clung to and invites you to trust differently. Through every crack, light entered. Through every tear, wisdom flowed. That's why you're stronger now, not because you avoided pain, but because you faced it without losing faith. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 34, verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. Meh. Those words are not poetic comfort. They are divine geometry. God positions Himself closest to those who think they've lost everything. Your brokenness became the meeting place between heaven and earth. When your plans collapsed, heaven was making space for divine design. When you said, "I can't do this anymore," God said, "Good. Now, let me." The end of self-sufficiency is always the beginning of supernatural strength. You have scars. Yes, but they're sacred maps. Each one tells a story of where mercy met pain. You no longer hide them, because they testify of survival. What once embarrassed you has become your evidence of grace. Think of gold refined by fire. The furnace doesn't destroy. It separates purity from impurity. You were placed in the heat, not to be consumed, but to be clarified. Every flame you faced removed what couldn't last. The result? You shine clearer now. Not in perfection, but in authenticity. People who only knew the old you wouldn't recognize the one standing now. Your laughter carried depth. Your silence carries wisdom. Your presence itself carries healing. The breaking taught you to discern what truly matters, to value peace over applause, purpose over comfort, God's whisper over man's approval. There's a rhythm in divine breaking. It's a symphony written in paradox. The more you lose, the freer you become. The more you surrender, the stronger you stand. That's how heaven works. Building from what the world calls broken. You once prayed for God to fix you, but He chose to remake you instead. Fixing would have patched cracks. Remaking turned them into conduits of light. What He's doing in you now doesn't resemble the old design, and that's the point. You're not being restored to who you were. You're being revealed as who you've always been meant to be. There's quiet strength in that realization. The pain that once made you question everything has become the soil of your wisdom, You no longer fear breaking because you've seen what it births. You understand now, pain refines prophets. Chosen one. You've passed through the valley, and the dust still clings to your feet. But look closer, it glitters. The ashes you carried have turned to evidence of glory. Heaven has built something eternal within you: resilience, compassion, discernment, and peace. The breaking didn't bury you, it built you. Heaven's selection ceremony doesn't happen on stages or in stadiums. It happens in silence, in secret rooms, in moments when you say yes to God when no one is watching. You didn't even realize it. But while you were wiping tears and choosing to keep faith alive, heaven was writing your name in the book of the appointed ones. When God chooses someone, there's no announcement at first. There's just a quiet shift in the air, a sense that the world has turned its gaze your way. Not the world of people, but the unseen world, where angels and purposes watch in anticipation. You may not have heard the trumpet, but heaven already called your name. You are chosen not because of perfection, but because of willingness, not because of what you've done, but because of what God intends to do through you. There's a story told about a shepherd boy named Eliam. He tended sheep in the wilderness, often overlooked by everyone, even his own family. One day, while alone with the sheep, a prophet appeared. Oil flowed down Eliam's head, and heaven whispered, "You are called." But after the ceremony, he didn't go straight to the palace, he went back to the pasture. Why? Because calling doesn't start with crowns, it starts with character. You understand that story deeply, because you've lived it. God marked you when you were still ordinary. And while the world saw just another face in the crowd, heaven saw an assignment wrapped in human form. There's an invisible seal upon your life, something that cannot be erased by rejection or failure. It is written in the first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 1, verse 27. God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. He chose the weak things of the world to shame the strong. Oh, that's you, the one the world underestimated, yet heaven elevated. Every time you thought, "I'm not enough," heaven replied, "Exactly. That's why I chose you, because your dependence on Him becomes your greatest power." The divine selection is never about rank, it's about readiness. Some are gifted, but not grounded. Some are loud, but not loyal. Yet here you are, still faithful, still humble, still waiting with open hands. Heaven delights in that posture. And now, God is preparing to release you into the very thing you were made for. You won't need to strive for it or manipulate your way toward it. You only need to stay aligned. What is coming is not earned, it's entrusted. You might not see it yet, but heaven has already begun moving resources, people, and opportunities toward you. It's like watching clouds gather before rain, slow at first, but unstoppable once it begins. And when that rain falls, it won't just bless you, it will flow through you. Because you were never chosen to hoard blessing, you were chosen to carry it, to become a channel of grace for others. That's why this message, this community, and this journey exist to awaken, equip, and empower those who know they are part of something divine. If you've been touched, strengthened, or comforted by these words, then you've already felt the purpose behind them. If this message has lit even a small flame in your spirit, would you gently feed that flame, Like this message, it's the spark that tells heaven you're listening. Share it as if you were passing a torch into another soul's night. Subscribe so the light keeps returning to you in new waves of truth. And if your heart stirs deeper, if you feel the whisper to help this fire spread farther, consider giving, not as a rule, but as a ripple of gratitude. Imagine your gift as a drop of oil poured into a lamp, keeping its flame alive for someone still walking in darkness. Your donation is not a transaction, it's participation. Every seed you plant becomes part of a greater harvest of hope. The river of this mission flows because many hands choose to pour water into it. Even the smallest drop can keep the current moving. You're not buying a blessing, you're helping carry light. And heaven records every act of generosity as worship, because together, we're not just building a channel, we're building an altar of words, where weary souls can come and remember who they are. So, as you listen to these final words of this section, let them settle deep. You are chosen, you are marked, and everything heaven has promised is already on its way. Your anointing is not future, it's forming. And soon, the oil that has been hidden in heaven's hands will find its way to your head. Prophetic activation, the stirring begins. You felt it deep inside you lately. That pulse of something holy, like a quiet drum beat in your chest. You can't explain it to anyone, yet it follows you through the day. It's not anxiety, not emotion. It's the Spirit awakening destiny inside you. Heaven is calling your name again. But this time, not in whispers. The air around you feels different because heaven is near. You're not imagining it. The same way wind moves through trees before the storm arrives. The Spirit is moving through your life before the breakthrough manifests. It's gentle, yet certain. It's not shouting, it's summoning. Something within you has begun to stir because you've reached the border between who you've been and who you are becoming. Every chosen one stands at this threshold. It's that sacred tension where old patterns start to fall apart, and a new rhythm begins to form. You're not breaking down, you're being recoded in the unseen. Angels are rearranging your surroundings, the people, opportunities, and even challenges that appear now are not random, they are prophetic alignments. Heaven has begun setting the stage for the unveiling of your assignment. There's a story of a woman named Mara who felt the stirring but didn't understand it. She was restless, waking at odd hours, sensing something was changing, but with no clue why. Until one day, she realized what she called confusion was actually calling. God was stretching her capacity to carry something new. That same stirring you feel, it's the same one that awakened her destiny. The Spirit does not move without purpose. When you feel His nudge, respond. When He calls you into quiet, listen. When He urges you to let go, trust. Because every divine stirring demands a human response. Heaven can start it, but only you can say yes. Scripture says in the Gospel of John, chapter 7, verse 38, "Whoever believes in me, rivers of living water will flow from within them." That's what's happening right now. Rivers are forming within you. The flow might start as a tremor, a gentle stirring, but soon it becomes unstoppable. This isn't just inspiration, it's impartation. The very life of heaven is beginning to move through your spirit. You might notice things, shifting dreams returning, tears coming easily, sudden waves of peace or conviction. Don't dismiss them. These are signs of prophetic activation. Heaven is tuning your heart to a higher frequency. Sometimes it feels like restlessness, but it's really readiness. The Spirit is pushing you out of comfort zones that no longer fit your calling. What used to satisfy you now feels too small because you've outgrown it spiritually. That's not loss, that's enlargement. Every chosen vessel must reach this crossroads. Will you stay where it's safe or step where it's sacred? God won't force you, but He will keep stirring until you respond. Because destiny demands movement. Think of an eagle in its nest. The mother stirs the nest, removing comfort, so the eaglet learns to fly. It's painful, confusing, but necessary. That's what God is doing in you. He's removing comfort to release capability. The stirring isn't punishment, it's preparation for flight. When the Spirit moves, resistance feels like weight. You'll notice restlessness in places where you're meant to leave. You'll sense release from what no longer aligns. Don't fight the current, flow with it. You're being carried toward purpose. Your voice, your gifts, your experiences, none of them are accidents. The world is about to need exactly what you carry. The timing of your awakening is divine. You were never behind. Heaven was simply waiting for the world to be ready for your sound. If tears come as you hear this, don't suppress them. That's your spirit agreeing with heaven. The river within you has begun to flow. What's awakening inside you will soon become movement around you. Now, take a breath. The shift has already started. You can feel it, can't you? That soft trembling in your chest, that's prophecy in motion. Heaven has ignited your spirit, and your obedience will turn the spark into flame. So, as you feel this stirring rise, make your declaration. It doesn't have to be long, it just has to be real. Type 222 inches, the comments, not as a ritual, but as a prophetic act, a simple sign that says, I feel the stirring, and I'm ready for what's next. When you type that number, you're agreeing with heaven's movement, marking this moment as the day your spirit responded to the call. The stirring has begun. The rivers are flowing. The next chapter is waiting. The voices of doubt come quietly at first. They whisper in the hours when you are tired, when your prayers echo in empty rooms, when faith feels like holding smoke. They question everything you're worth, your direction, even your identity as one of the chosen. Doubt rarely shouts. It murmurs in familiar tones, sounding like reason, sounding like you. But beneath that noise, there's another voice, steady, clear, unshakable. It doesn't compete for volume. It commands through peace. That voice belongs to the one who called you. You've heard it before, haven't you? The one that whispered, keep going, when everything inside screamed, give up. The battle between those two voices is where faith is forged. Every chosen one must learn this war, the clash between divine truth and earthly fear. Doubt will show you facts, but faith will show you the unseen. You can't silence doubt by arguing, you silence it by anchoring. There's a man named Silas who once felt the weight of that inner war. He was called to speak words that stirred crowds. Yet after a time of success came silence and opposition. The same people who once praised him now questioned him, alone in a cold cell. He began to doubt if he had really heard God at all. But in that darkness, he began to sing. His voice, weak yet sincere, rose like incense. The cell didn't open instantly, but something inside him did. That's the secret. Worship doesn't always remove chains, but it always releases the soul. You have your own cell moments, spaces where freedom looks distant and silence feels endless. But remember, silence is not the absence of God, it's the training ground of trust. Heaven never promised the absence of fear, only the presence of faith stronger than fear. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 1, verse 7, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind." Nendo, that verse is a shield, not just a sentence. It reminds you that fear doesn't come from above. It's borrowed noise from the enemy. Every time you sense fear rising, you can remind your heart that heaven's DNA inside you does not include timidity. It includes authority, love, and clarity. The voices of doubt often disguise themselves as wisdom. They say, "Be realistic. Don't hope too high." But faith is not reckless. It's rooted in revelation. Faith looks at the storm and says, "Peace still belongs here." It walks on water, not because the surface changed, but because the focus did. You've walked through seasons when doubt tried to drown you. Each time you stood back up, you became stronger. Faith grows not by avoiding fear, but by standing firm in its presence. The courage you have today is proof that fear lost more than once. Think of a lion surrounded by echoes. The jungle roars with imitation voices, each one trying to sound like the king. Yet when the real lion speaks, everything stops. That's what happens when faith speaks. It silences imitation. The enemy can mimic confusion, but he cannot duplicate conviction. Sometimes, faith feels quiet because it doesn't need to prove itself. It's not always loud declarations or perfect certainty. Sometimes, it's the quiet whisper, "God, I still trust you." Even trembling faith is faith that moves heaven. The key is where you choose to listen. The voice of doubt drains strength, but the voice of truth restores it. The voice of fear locks doors, but the voice of grace opens them. The voice of shame condemns, but the voice of love redeems. You decide which voice writes your story. If you listen long enough to heaven's tone, you'll notice something it never accuses, never mocks, never belittles. It calls, it invites, it reminds you of what's already written over your life. And when you align with that frequency, peace becomes your armor. You're not strange for wrestling with uncertainty. Every prophet, every disciple, every saint had nights of questions. What made them great was not the absence of fear, but their decision to believe in spite of it. That same decision now stands before you. You've come too far to let doubt rewrite your destiny. You've cried too many prayers, endured too many trials, and witnessed too many miracles to turn back now. Let the voices fade. Let the noise fall silent. There is one truth that remains: what God began, He will finish. So breathe. Let faith settle again in your chest. You are not losing your way. You are learning how to walk in the dark with light inside you. The whispers of fear may circle, but they cannot enter where perfect love resides. And when you rise tomorrow, carry this certainty with you. You are not guided by the voices of doubt, but by the steady hand of the one who called you. When destiny interrupts comfort, it rarely feels like a blessing at first. It feels like disruption, like the rug being pulled from beneath your feet just when you started to feel safe. You planned stability, but heaven planned transformation. And transformation never asks for permission. You've probably noticed how divine shifts never wait for convenient timing. They arrive in the middle of routines, in the middle of normal days that suddenly turn sacred. You were just living, and then something changed, an unexpected move, a closed door, a divine detour that refused to explain itself. That was not chaos, that was calling. God often interrupts what's comfortable to awaken what's divine. Comfort is good, but it can lull purpose to sleep. So he stirs the waters, rearranges the scenery, and presses you out of what's familiar. It's not punishment, it's invitation. Because faith was never meant to stay in safe places. It grows best in the unknown. There's a story of a young man named Daniel, not the prophet, but a modern one in heart. He had everything planned: career, relationship, future. Then, without warning, everything fell apart. He lost the job he prayed for, and doors that once opened now slammed shut. For months, he thought God was silent, but later, he discovered that what looked like loss was actually relocation. The company's collapse pushed him to start a small outreach ministry that now feeds hundreds every month. Heaven interrupted his comfort to release his calling. That's the mystery of divine disruption. It feels like chaos until hindsight turns it into clarity. You, too, have walked through divine interruptions. They didn't make sense at the time, but now you can trace God's fingerprints through them. Heaven speaks clearly through the words in Deuteronomy, chapter 31, verse 8. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. And those words are an anchor in the storm of change. God doesn't simply call you forward, he walks before you. When he moves you, it's never into emptiness, it's into alignment. The road may look uncertain, but his presence is the map. Every destiny interruption comes with purpose disguised as pressure. It's like an eagle teaching its young to fly. The nest is stirred, the feathers are scattered, the comfort is gone. But in that push, the eaglet learns wings it never knew it had. That's what God is doing in you. The shaking isn't rejection, it's release. You've probably asked, why now? Why this? Because divine timing always feels inconvenient to human comfort. God doesn't wait for the perfect circumstance, he creates it. And sometimes, creating means breaking what you thought would last forever. Look back at your story, the friendships that faded, the plans that fell apart, the shifts you didn't expect. None of it was wasted. Each event was a divine pivot, steering you closer to your true assignment. The exit signs you resisted were actually directions to a better destiny. It's human to resist change. The heart clings to the familiar, even when the familiar no longer fits. But destiny requires movement. Like a river, it cannot remain stagnant. It flows. It bends. It carves new paths through stone. You, too, are a river, and heaven has just redirected your course. When God interrupts, he's not taking something from you, he's making space to give something through you. The interruption is not a wall, it's a doorway disguised as difficulty. There's a holiness in the unfamiliar. That's where dependency becomes revelation. That's where plans end and purpose begins. It's uncomfortable. Yes, but that's how you know it's divine. He never asks you to step into something you can manage without him. So if you're standing in the middle of transition, unsure where to step next, don't rush back to what feels safe. The comfort you're tempted to return to can no longer contain who you're becoming. You've outgrown it, and heaven will not let you shrink to fit a space you've already surpassed. Every closed door, every delayed answer, every unexpected redirection is part of the choreography of your calling. God is not improvising, He's orchestrating. Let this truth settle in your heart. The same hand that removed the old is already preparing the new. What's coming will make sense of what you lost. What's ahead will redeem every tear that fell along the way. When destiny interrupts comfort, it's heaven's way of saying, there's more grace, more growth, more glory, waiting just beyond the edge of your fear. Don't fight the interruption. Flow with it. Because one day, you'll look back and realize the moment your comfort broke was the moment your destiny began to breathe. The furnace of proof, every chosen one passes through it. It's the season that separates words from truth, belief from conviction, and calling from comfort. You can't skip it. You can't rush it. It's where the gold of faith is tested in the fire of experience. You've been through that fire before. You know the feeling when everything familiar melts away, when prayers seem unanswered, when endurance becomes the only evidence of faith. But though the flames were fierce, they did not consume you. They refined you. Refinement isn't punishment, it's permission. Permission for purity, for clarity, for purpose. God doesn't test to expose weakness, He tests to reveal strength. In the furnace, your true capacity comes to light. Think about Daniel's 3 friends standing before the blazing fire. They didn't beg for escape, they stood firm, declaring, even if He doesn't deliver us, we will not bow. That's faith beyond outcome. That's trust that transcends results. And in that kind of faith, flames lose their power. You, too, have had moments like that when surrender was the only option. Maybe it was illness, betrayal, loss, or loneliness. The situation burned, but you didn't vanish. Something divine survived. That something is your spirit, unbreakable, because it's anchored in eternity. Every furnace serves a sacred purpose. It removes what's temporary, so only the eternal remains. It burns away pride, fear, and false identity, until what's left is raw authenticity, your true reflection in God's image. We find in the book of Zechariah, chapter 13, verse 9, I will bring them through the fire and make them pure. I will refine like silver, test them like gold. They will call my name. That's not a warning, it's a promise. The fire isn't random, it's relational. It's God's way of responding to your prayer for purpose. When you said, use me, heaven answered, then let me prepare you. And the furnace doesn't just reveal who you are, it reveals who God is. In the heat, His presence becomes tangible. When everything else fails, He remains. You begin to understand that faith isn't proven in comfort, but in conflict. A woman once said, I met God most clearly when I lost everything else. She wasn't being poetic, she was telling the truth of every chosen soul. Sometimes the blessing isn't in what God gives, but in what He takes away to make space for Himself. Fire is paradoxical. It destroys and defines at once. The same flame that melts wax can forge steel. What it does depends on the material. You, chosen one, are not wax. You are steel. Every trial that tried to break you only strengthened your structure. The fire was never meant to end you. It was meant to end what could not go with you. The impatience, the fear, the need for approval. Those things can't survive in the temperature of transformation. It's strange, isn't it? How pain can polish, how heat can heal. The very moments that hurt the most have become the chapters that speak the loudest of grace. Every scar now carries a story of resurrection. Sometimes you wonder if you'll ever be completely free of the flames. But freedom doesn't always mean escape. It means emergence. The fire changes shape as you grow. It shifts from destruction to direction. You are walking proof that what burns doesn't always die. Some things only begin to live when they pass through fire. So now, when new heat comes, don't fear it. Recognize it. The fire knows your name, but it also knows your victory. You've passed through it before. You'll pass through it again. The only difference now is that you carry light within the flames. You've become a living testimony of survival and transformation. Heaven sees it. Hell fears it. And the world needs it. Type, fire proved me. Because this isn't just about endurance, it's about revelation. When you write those words, you declare that what once tried to destroy you only revealed your strength. It's your way of saying, I came through, and I'm still shining. Arlene, the furnace didn't win. You did. And now, you carry the proof in every step you take. Each time you declare, fire proved me. Heaven bears witness. That statement is not for the world, it's for your own remembrance. It's a memorial stone in the spirit, marking where pain ended and purpose began. You're saying to God, I recognize what you did through the flames. I am not the ashes, I am the gold. That is worship in its purest form. Gratitude spoken through resilience. So when you type those words, let them carry meaning. They're not just letters on a screen, they are covenant language, sealing your agreement with heaven's refining work in you. The rise of the new mantle begins quietly. It doesn't descend with noise or drama, it settles softly, like dawn light after a long night. You may not even notice it at first, but everything around you begins to sense it. The atmosphere shifts. People respond differently. Doors open that logic can't explain. That's what happens when heaven places new authority on a life. It changes the spiritual climate before it changes the circumstances. The old garments of survival are falling away. You've worn them long enough, garments woven from worry, scarcity, and self-protection. They kept you through the wilderness, but they cannot enter the promise. The new mantle is lighter, but stronger. It's not a robe of defense, it's a cloak of divine purpose. It carries peace instead of panic, boldness instead of fear. When Elisha received Elijah's mantle, he didn't just inherit power, he inherited responsibility. The mantle always weighs more than it looks. You, too, are stepping into something sacred, something that carries weight, not to crush you, but to crown you. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, to bestow on them a crown of beauty instead of ashes, the oil of joy instead of mourning, a garment of praise. This is that moment. The ashes of your past are being exchanged for beauty. The heaviness that once clung to you is lifting, replaced by quiet authority. You're not trying to prove yourself anymore. You're walking in the truth of who you've become. Picture a blacksmith forging a sword. The fire softens the metal. The hammer shapes it. And the water seals its strength. That's what your past seasons have done for you. Every hardship was part of the shaping. Now, heaven holds out the finished blade, refined, ready, and radiant. The mantle represents more than favor, it represents function. It's heaven saying, you're ready. Ready to influence, to heal, to speak, to build, not for applause, but for impact, not for status, but for service. And here's the beauty. This calling isn't meant to isolate you, it's meant to connect you. Every mantle carries a mission that needs a community. None of us walk this path alone. We're all threads in a tapestry. And when one thread shines, the whole pattern glows brighter. That's why these messages, these words, and this space exist to remind you of what's already inside you. If you've been strengthened, comforted, or awakened by these moments, know this: you are part of something living. These words breathe because people like you keep them alive. So if this has stirred something in your spirit, if it has spoken to the part of you that remembers heaven's voice, consider feeding that flame. Like this message, so the echo continues. Share it as you would pass a lantern in a long corridor, letting its light reach someone still walking in shadows. Subscribe, so you don't miss the next wave of words meant to meet you where you are. And if your heart ever feels prompted to go deeper to help this light reach farther, consider giving, not as pressure, but as partnership. Think of it as pouring a drop of oil into a lamp, or adding a log to a fire that's warming others in the night. It's an act of faith, not obligation. A way of saying, I believe this light should keep burning. And every seed sown here becomes a bridge for someone else to find their way back to hope. Some gifts by microphones, others by moments of peace for souls on the edge. Each one matters, and heaven never overlooks generosity born from sincerity. If you can't give, your presence alone is a gift. Every heart that listens, every spirit that awakens each, is part of the rising. You're not a spectator in this, you're a participant in what God is building through collective obedience. You are stepping into the new mantle now, one woven with grace, faith, and divine steadiness. You don't need to chase confirmation. The shift inside you is proof enough. The air around you knows who you are. Remember this: mantles don't make you superior, they make you responsible. They are not medals of achievement, but garments of assignment. And you've been chosen to wear yours in this generation, to walk into rooms and shift them simply by being there. The old cloak has fallen. The new one rests upon your shoulders. Heaven has approved what the fire has prepared. Rise, mantle bearer. Walk in the authority heaven has entrusted. Let your steps carry peace. And let your presence remind others that God still raises the humble to carry his light. When heaven starts moving through you, everything changes. Not in noise or spectacle, but in quiet power. You'll start to notice how your presence carries peace where there was tension, how your words seem to land deeper, how your prayers begin to carry a strange weight. It's not pride, it's proof that the vessel has finally become ready for the flow. This is where partnership begins, heaven's strength woven with your obedience. You become a living channel, a bridge between the divine and the earthly. The same hands that once trembled in fear now heal with gentleness. The same mouth that once cried for help now speaks hope. You are not simply used by God, you are moved by Him. It's mysterious how it happens. One morning, you wake up and realize your reactions are different. Things that used to break you no longer have power. You feel compassion rising where bitterness once lived. That's not personality improvement, it's evidence of presence. The Spirit has taken residence in your spirit. And through you, heaven now touches earth. As Jesus Himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." That light isn't just illumination, it's transformation. It's not about shining for recognition, it's about revealing divine reality through ordinary life. You become a mirror through which the world glimpses God. There's a story about a nurse named Clara who worked in a small hospital. Her days were long. Her pay was low. But her presence changed everything. Patients said they felt peace when she entered the room. She never preached, never shouted. She simply carried quiet kindness. One patient once told her, "When you're here, it feels like light walks in." Clara smiled, not realizing that was literal truth. Heaven had chosen her to be a carrier of peace. You might not wear a title, but heaven recognizes your influence. Every word you speak in faith releases fragrance into the atmosphere. Every act of kindness shifts the unseen. When you forgive, you disarm darkness. When you pray, you realign realities. The Spirit doesn't move through perfect people. He moves through surrendered ones. You've been learning this, how power and humility can exist in the same breath. True authority is quiet. It doesn't demand attention. It draws transformation. When heaven moves through you, you'll find that some people drift away, not because they dislike you, but because the light reveals what's unwilling to change. Don't chase those who walk away. They're making room for those drawn by truth. Light attracts its own tribe. The more heaven flows through you, the more simplicity becomes sacred. You'll start to see miracles in small things, in a conversation, in a sunrise, in laughter after sorrow. You begin to understand that heaven doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes the miracle is not in the mountain moving, but in your heart, learning peace while it waits. There's also a strange weight that comes with this flow, a responsibility to steward what's holy. Because when heaven entrusts you with power, it's not for display, it's for healing. You will find yourself loving deeper, forgiving faster, serving more quietly. You won't need validation anymore. Obedience will be your satisfaction. Sometimes, you'll feel the current of the Spirit, mid-sentence. Words you didn't plan will leave your lips and comfort someone's heart. Sometimes, a simple prayer will shift the entire atmosphere of a home. These are signs that you are walking as one aligned, one through whom heaven speaks naturally. It's easy to think miracles belong to stages and microphones, but the truest ones often unfold in kitchens, on sidewalks, in moments when no one's watching. That's where the kingdom truly moves, through unseen hearts carrying unseen fire. So don't underestimate what flows through you. Your life may look ordinary, but to heaven, it's a living stream. Every step, every whisper, every act of obedience becomes a conduit of divine movement. And as you continue to grow, you'll see that it's not about chasing experiences, it's about becoming one. Heaven doesn't visit you anymore, it lives through you. You are the vessel, the altar, the echo of eternity in human form. When heaven starts moving through you, the world doesn't just change around you, it changes because of you. You are the evidence that heaven still breathes through human hearts. Every step you take leaves a trail of light for those still finding their way home. And as you walk forward, remember, your life itself is a prayer. Your breath, a melody of faith. Keep flowing, heaven flows with you. Prophetic signs and confirmation, they always arrive when you least expect them. Sometimes in whispers, sometimes in patterns, sometimes in what seems like coincidence but isn't. Heaven speaks in code, yet the heart that listens can always decipher it. You've begun to notice it, the repeating moments, the recurring numbers, the divine delays that suddenly make sense. It's not superstition, it's conversation. When God begins to move through you, He also begins to mark your steps with confirmation, not because He needs to prove Himself, but because He knows the human heart forgets easily. So He sends reminders, little fingerprints of eternity left on your path. You might wake up one morning and sense peace for no reason. That's not random, that's reassurance. You might cross paths with someone who says the exact words you prayed silently the night before. That's not chance, that's orchestration. Heaven loves to confirm what it starts. According to the writings of the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 33, verse 3, "Call to me and I will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know." And that verse isn't just promise, it's pattern. When you call, heaven responds. Not always with thunder, but often with threads of subtle grace woven into ordinary moments. There's a story of a man named Aaron who once prayed for direction. He asked God to show him if he should stay in his city or move. For weeks, he heard nothing. But one morning, a stranger on the train began sharing how they had just moved to the same city Aaron had been thinking of. The next day, he opened his Bible, and his eyes fell on a verse about stepping into new territory. A week later, a job opportunity appeared in that same place. He smiled and said quietly, "I hear you, Lord." That's how heaven works, not through chaos, but through confirmation. Each detail becomes a puzzle piece that fits perfectly once you surrender control. When you start walking in alignment, the natural and the supernatural begin to harmonize. You'll feel it, a strange sense of knowing without proof, a peace that arrives before the path clears. That's prophetic alignment, heaven's way of saying, keep walking, you're on the right road. No, but remember, confirmation is not meant to replace faith, it's meant to strengthen it. God doesn't give signs for entertainment, He gives them for encouragement. When He repeats a pattern or highlights a word, He's not just proving His presence, He's preparing your obedience. You may begin to notice numbers or phrases, reappearing patterns that follow you gently. Don't idolize them, interpret them. They are reminders, not replacements for relationship. The signs are invitations to draw nearer, not to rely on symbols more than the source. Think of a lighthouse blinking in the distance. Its rhythm doesn't change, it just reminds ships that home is near. That's what these confirmations do. They remind your spirit that you're still guided, still guarded, still seen. When heaven wants your attention, it often speaks through repetition. The same dream, the same phrase, the same scripture appearing again and again. It's not a loop, it's a message waiting for acknowledgement. Some of you have been surrounded by signs lately, doors that open without effort, names that keep returning in conversation, peace that falls unexpectedly after prayer. That's heaven's handwriting. Don't overlook it. The world calls it coincidence. But you know better. You've seen how precise heaven can be, how it orchestrates encounters, shifts emotions, and places you exactly where purpose waits. So when confirmation comes, don't rush past it. Pause it. Thank God for the reminder. Write it down. Because one day, when doubt whispers again, that note will be your anchor. And if you're waiting for confirmation right now, let this be one. You're not lost. You're aligned. The silence doesn't mean absence. It means precision. Heaven is still speaking. You're just in the pause before the next echo. Every chosen one eventually learns this rhythm. Pray. Wait. Notice. Obey. And through that rhythm, your faith becomes fluent in heaven's language. So when you sense the signs around you, when numbers or patterns appear again and again, take a moment to acknowledge them, not as magic, but as mercy. If this message resonates deep within your spirit, type 333 inches, the comments. Do it not for display, but as an act of agreement, as if you're whispering to heaven, I see what you're showing me, and I'm ready to follow. Let that number be your amen, your signature on heaven's unfolding letter to your life. The signs are here. The alignment is real, and confirmation is not coming. It has already begun. The resistance of darkness always comes when light begins to grow. It's an old law of the Spirit, where purpose rises, opposition follows. You've likely felt it already, the sudden heaviness after moments of peace, the unexpected conflict right after clarity, the old wounds that reopen just as healing begins. These are not coincidences, they are confirmations that the light inside you has become too bright to ignore. Spiritual resistance is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's proof that you're doing something right. Darkness never attacks what's stagnant, it only targets what's advancing. The enemy recognizes your potential, often before you fully do. And his strategy is simple: distraction through discouragement. But here's the truth. What resists you cannot overpower. What called you? God doesn't remove opposition. He uses it to reveal the authority he placed within you. Every chosen one faces this tension. It's the battlefield between becoming and believing. There's a story of a young teacher named Leora. She had a calling to bring hope into a broken community. At first, everything flourished. Students changed. Lives healed. But soon came rumors, betrayal, even fear. She prayed for the struggle to stop. But instead, God gave her a word: keep standing. Months later, those same trials birthed deeper trust and a stronger influence. The very resistance that tried to silence her became the force that spread her light farther. The Word of God declares in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." That verse uncovers the real war. Your battle isn't with people, it's with principalities. That's why ordinary tools don't work here. You can't out-argue darkness, you must outshine it. You don't fight with noise, you fight with light. Resistance often shows up in emotional exhaustion, unexpected criticism, or strange delays. These are not random. They are attempts to make you question your direction. The enemy knows he can't steal your calling, so he tries to make you lay it down yourself. But you've come too far to surrender now. In the realm of the Spirit, every advancement draws attention. When you begin to align with heaven, hell takes notice. Yet even that awareness works in your favor. It's a sign that your steps are being tracked because your progress matters. Think of an archer drawing back the bow. The pull feels like regression, but it's preparation. The tension is necessary for release. In the same way, your current resistance is stretching you for greater reach. What feels like pushback is actually propulsion. And here's something sacred. Even resistance obeys divine limits. The darkness can surround but never swallow. It can delay but never destroy. The very boundaries of your battle are drawn by the hand of God. Nothing in this fight happens outside His permission, and nothing escapes His plan. When you begin to see warfare this way, fear loses its grip. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start saying, "It's my turn." Because if the battle is fierce, the assignment must be significant. Resistance refines your focus. It teaches you what matters. It strips away distractions, forcing you to anchor deeper in faith. You learn that peace isn't the absence of war, it's the presence of unshakable confidence. Many don't realize that light shines brightest not by trying, but by being. You don't need to fight the darkness by force, you need only to remain lit. The flame doesn't chase shadows, it simply burns. And shadows flee on their own. So, when confusion rises, stay anchored. When accusations appear, stay silent in grace. When fear tries to re-enter, remember the authority you carry. Darkness only tests where light already lives. Every attack you've endured has equipped you with discernment. Every loss has sharpened your sight. You now recognize spiritual tension, not as threat, but as transition. Each wave of resistance is heaven's way of saying, "You're getting close." End quote. Soon, the resistance will no longer feel like battle. It will feel like validation. You'll realize that what once intimidated you now submits to you. The same pressure that once made you tremble will become the wind beneath your boldness. The darkness resisted you because it knew the truth. Your rise was already written. You don't need to fight for victory, you're fighting from it. The outcome was decided before the battle began. And when the resistance finally breaks, and it will, you'll stand stronger, clearer, and more alive than ever. Because in every struggle, heaven has been building strength in your spirit. The darkness came to stop you. Instead, it refined you. You carry revival in your bones. You felt it for years, that quiet fire that refuses to die. Even when life grows cold, it's not emotion, it's inheritance. Heaven planted something eternal inside you long before you understood its purpose. That flame is holy. It's the mark of those who carry awakening within them. Revival doesn't begin in crowds, it begins in hearts. It starts in the silence of surrender, in tears whispered on lonely nights, in quiet prayers spoken through trembling voices. The world thinks revival is thunder and shouting, but in truth, it often begins as a flicker in one surrendered soul. You've carried that flicker faithfully, even when others stopped believing. You refused to let it go out. When hope was thin, you protected it. When doubt tried to drown it, You guarded it. And now, heaven is breathing on that small flame again. What was once flickering is about to burn bright. We are reminded through the writings of David in the book of Psalms, chapter 85. Verse 6, "Will you not revive us again, that your people may rejoice in you?" That ancient cry still echoes in the present. God doesn't just revive nations, He revives individuals. Before revival sweeps through crowds, it awakens one heart at a time. Yours is one of them. Revival isn't only about miracles or power, it's about restoration. It's the moment when hearts remember who they are and whose they are. When love replaces bitterness. When mercy heals memory. When faith breathes again after being buried under disappointment. That's what heaven is doing in you. The reason you've felt pressure lately is because something sacred is expanding inside you. You're carrying life for more than just yourself. Like a seed beneath the soil, your hidden seasons have been gestation. The darkness you endured was womb, not tomb. And now, something divine is ready to emerge. Carrying revival means you see differently. You notice pain others ignore. You feel what heaven feels, its ache for healing, its longing for restoration. That sensitivity isn't weakness, it's evidence that your heart beats in sync with eternity. Revival bearers are rarely understood. People may misinterpret your intensity, your silence, your tears. But that's because they don't realize you're standing between two realms, listening to heaven while walking on earth. That tension is sacred. It means you're a bridge. There's a story of an old man named Ezra. Every morning, he would walk through the empty marketplace before dawn, whispering prayers over each street, each home. People thought he was odd. Years later, when tragedy struck the town, those same streets became places of refuge, and people said, "Peace lives here." They didn't realize they'd been walking through the residue of intercession. Ezra had carried revival silently for years, before anyone saw the fruit. That's how revival often works. It's quiet before it's loud. It moves inward before outward. It matures in hidden hearts before manifesting in open spaces. You, too, are in that process. The fire you feel is not restlessness, it's readiness. Sometimes revival doesn't come with noise, but with tears that cleanse. It's when forgiveness finally flows, where resentment once ruled. It's when a weary soul dares to believe again. Revival is when you look at broken things and no longer see ruin, but resurrection. You carry that vision now. It's why you can't stay numb anymore. The spirit within you won't allow it. Heaven has branded your heart with compassion that won't quit, with hope that refuses to fade. Revival carriers are torchbearers in a dim world. Your light doesn't need to compete, it only needs to stay consistent. Every word of kindness, every prayer of mercy, every act of faith keeps the fire burning brighter. You are not waiting for revival, you are revival in motion. And soon, others will catch flame from your life. Not because you preached loudly, but because you live gently. Fire spreads through contact, not commotion. The warmth of your faith will awaken embers in others who thought they'd gone cold. This is how heaven multiplies light, one heart igniting another until whole generations glow again. The fire you carry is older than you, stronger than you, and destined to outlast you. Don't underestimate small sparks. Every great awakening began with one obedient heart. You are part of that pattern. One flicker in a divine chain, reaction that will light the world in ways you can't yet see. And when people ask why you still believe, why you still love, why you still rise after every fall, tell them the truth, because the fire inside you is stronger than anything that tried to extinguish it. You carry revival in your bones. It breathes when you breathe. It walks where you walk. It speaks when you stay silent. Heaven trusts you with flame because you've proven you'll protect it. Keep walking with that light. The dawn that others pray for is already rising within you. The call to kingdom influence it begins quietly, almost unnoticed. It's not about crowns or titles. It's about carrying heaven's atmosphere wherever you go. Influence in the kingdom doesn't mean control, it means impact. It's when your presence becomes a message, when your daily steps become sermons without sound. You've been prepared for this moment for longer than you realize. Every season of delay was shaping your discernment. Every disappointment was refining your compassion. Now, the Spirit whispers, it's time to build, time to speak, time to move. The kingdom advances not through noise, but through lives yielded in quiet power. God is enlarging your territory, not to make you famous, but to make His heart visible through you. You were never meant to fit inside small spaces. You were born to shift atmospheres. When you walk into a room, the temperature changes not because of personality, but because of presence. Kingdom influence isn't about visibility, it's about vibration. It's the invisible current that flows from a surrendered heart wherever you stand in peace. Chaos loses its grip. Wherever you speak truth in love, darkness retreats. That's what it means to carry divine authority. You don't demand it, you demonstrate it. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 2, verse 13, "For it is God who works in you, to will and to act, in order to fulfill His good purpose." The divine partnership is unfolding. You act, but heaven amplifies. You speak, and eternity echoes. You sow, and heaven multiplies. Every small act of obedience becomes a ripple of light across unseen waters. Think of your life as a candle placed in a vast cathedral, alone. It seems small, yet when others see it, they are drawn to light their own. That is kingdom influence, igniting what's already within others through the way you live. You'll start to notice how people begin to ask questions without words. They'll sense something on you, peace that feels tangible, strength that feels safe, grace that feels different. That's the reflection of divine influence. Heaven seen in human form. The world measures influence by numbers, but heaven measures it by nurture. How many hearts feel lighter because you were near? That's your assignment now, to build atmospheres of peace, to plant hope in weary soil, to carry gentleness into harsh places. And as this movement grows, it needs hands, hearts, and voices. These words you're hearing, this space you've found, it's more than a message. It's a meeting place for those who carry the same fire. Together, we're weaving a network of light strong enough to touch cities, families, generations. If this message has stirred your spirit, let your light answer back. Like this message as a small yet sacred flame, it's how light recognizes light. Share it as you would pass a candle in a dark corridor, letting others see, because you dared to shine first. If your heart finds peace here, subscribe, not as routine, but as remembrance. It's like marking a trail in the forest so you can find your way back when the world feels heavy again. And if you ever feel moved to help this message travel farther, consider giving, not out of pressure, but as participation in something luminous. Think of it as pouring oil into a shared lamp, ensuring the flame doesn't fade when the night grows long. Every gift, small or great, is a whisper that says, "I believe this light should keep reaching." And if these words have touched something deep within you, leave a simple comment. Write, "Light lives here." Not as a ritual, but as a reminder that your heart still burns with purpose, and that you choose to keep your flame alive among others who carry the same fire. Your generosity becomes the wind that carries the flame. Some will give words, some will give prayers, some will give resources. Each gift is holy. Each one keeps the fire alive for the next soul who stumbles in searching for warmth. You are not funding a person, you are fueling a purpose. You're helping light travel where feet cannot. You're becoming a co-author of transformation stories, yet to be written. So, as you sit with these words, remember, influence in God's kingdom isn't earned, it's entrusted. It grows not by striving, but by shining. You were never meant to hide your light. You were meant to hold it high enough for others to see their own reflection of grace. Let your influence be gentle, like dawn touching water. Let it move quietly, like wind through wheat. And as you walk forward, may every step carry the scent of heaven's hope. The kingdom is expanding through hearts like yours, and every act of light, every flame, every seed, every yes pushes back the night a little farther. The unseen hand, God's final adjustment. It's the stage of destiny where everything begins to shift quietly, almost imperceptibly, yet unmistakably. You can feel it before you see it. It's the moment when heaven fine-tunes what's been forming, aligning every hidden detail to match divine timing. This stage is not dramatic, but it is decisive. You'll notice relationships changing, environments rearranging, desires being redefined. It's not confusion, it's calibration. The hand of God is adjusting your life for precision, removing what's too heavy for the next season, repositioning what must remain, and refining what's already growing. It's easy to misunderstand this part. From the outside, it may look like loss or instability, but in the unseen realm, heaven is reorganizing your world with mathematical accuracy. You prayed for purpose, and this is what it looks like when purpose begins to take shape. The hand of God never trembles. It never misplaces. It moves slowly at times, but never wrongly. Every door that shuts in this stage shuts to preserve purity. Every door that opens does so to fulfill promise. There's a quiet story about a woman named Selah. She worked hard in a business that once felt right, but slowly drained her peace. For months, she felt uneasy, though nothing was technically wrong. One day, the company dissolved without warning. At first, she panicked, but within weeks, an old friend called her into a new project that matched everything she had once prayed for. It wasn't luck, it was alignment. The unseen hand had gently closed one chapter to reveal another. That's what God's adjustments feel like, gentle interruptions that redirect the course of your life toward places your heart didn't even know it longed for. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, remind us, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him. who are called according to his purpose. Those words hold the secret to peace in transition. All things means everything, the ones that make sense and the ones that break you. The unseen hand uses both blessing and breaking as tools for building. When you trust that truth, you stop fearing change. You start realizing that divine rearrangement isn't rejection, it's redirection. God doesn't move pieces randomly, he moves them prophetically. You might wake one morning and sense an inner release, a nudge to step away from a conversation, a project, a place. Don't ignore it. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. The Spirit often speaks through quiet discontent, shifting your heart before he shifts your path. In this season, you'll also feel heaven highlighting certain people in your life. Some connections will deepen unexpectedly, others will fade without explanation. Don't fight either. The unseen hand is grouping you according to purpose. Alignment always precedes assignment. Think of a chessboard before checkmate. The final moves look simple but carry enormous weight. Each piece moves deliberately. Each decision counts. That's where you are now, the strategy stage of your story. The unseen hand is moving what's yours into position, ensuring victory long before you make the move. The hardest part is the waiting between movement and manifestation. You'll wonder if you missed something, if you're supposed to act faster. But this is not a season of striving, it's a season of sensitivity. The greatest strength now is stillness. Sometimes God hides his hand, not to test you, but to train your trust. When you can't see what he's doing, he's asking if you'll believe who he is. Remember, when a painter steps back from the canvas, it's not because he's finished, it's because he's gaining perspective. God is doing the same. He's not distant, he's detailing. The strokes you can't see yet are the ones that give the masterpiece its meaning. In this sacred adjustment, even your mistakes are being rewritten into miracles. What you thought was wasted time will soon become wisdom. The paths that seem to diverge will soon converge. The seasons that felt disjointed will fit together like puzzle pieces, revealing a design far more intricate than you imagined. The unseen hand is steady. Even when your heart isn't, its touch is gentle, but its outcome is powerful. You may not understand every change, but you can trust the change maker. When this season settles, you'll look back and realize that what felt like shaking was actually shaping. The hand that rearranged everything didn't remove you, it positioned you. You're being aligned with destiny's perfect rhythm. Heaven is not improvising, it's orchestrating. And soon, when the time is right, everything that's been quietly moving beneath the surface will rise into sight. The unseen hand has never missed a note in your story, and it never will. It's happening now. What was once promised is unfolding before your eyes. Heaven's plan, long hidden in preparation and prayer, has entered the visible realm. The very air feels different, charged with purpose, saturated with meaning. The season of waiting is giving way to the season of walking. Everything you've endured has led to this threshold. The fulfillment of God's word doesn't arrive like an explosion. It emerges like dawn, quiet yet undeniable. It creeps over the horizon until you realize that darkness no longer defines the landscape. What once seemed distant is now within reach. You don't have to chase it. You simply have to recognize it. The massive thing God is doing is not only around you, it's through you. You can sense it in your spirit. Prayers that once felt unanswered are now manifesting as direction. Peace has replaced pressure. Clarity has replaced confusion. The fog is lifting, revealing what was there all along: order disguised as chaos, purpose hidden in delay. Heaven has not just intervened, it has integrated. The divine is now woven through your ordinary life like gold threads in linen. Every conversation, every moment, every breath carries eternal weight. You've become what you once prayed for, an instrument through which heaven moves naturally. The Book of Haggai, Chapter 2, Verse 9, declares, "The glory of this present house will be greater than the glory of the former, says the Lord Almighty. And in this place I will grant peace." And those words are your confirmation. The next chapter of your life carries more glory, not because of ease, but because of alignment. What's being built in you now will outshine what was lost. The peace you longed for is not arriving as absence of trouble, but as the presence of divine steadiness. When heaven moves, it never leaves things the same. Old fears dissolve quietly. Past disappointments lose their sting. You start to notice that the same situations that once drained you now reveal opportunities for grace. This is what happens when destiny shifts from prophecy to reality. It redeems the very terrain that tried to bury you. You are walking proof of divine orchestration. Every broken season has converged into beauty. Every unanswered prayer has become foundation. Even your scars have turned into sacred ink, telling the story of survival and purpose intertwined. This is the hour of awakening. Heaven's timeline and yours have finally aligned. What once felt delayed was never denied. It was being timed perfectly. The people you're meeting, the places you're stepping into, the insights that come without warning, all of it testifies to movement. The gears of destiny are turning, and you are part of the mechanism. When the Spirit begins to fulfill promises, He does not rush, He reveals. You start to recognize the divine rhythm beneath daily life, the pattern of peace after surrender, the burst of strength after stillness. This is no coincidence. It's confirmation that your steps are no longer random. They're rhythmic with heaven's song. You'll realize that what's happening is not simply about you, it's about generations beyond you. Your obedience has broken cycles and opened doors for others. The same way one flame can light 1,000 candles, your faith has ignited something that will outlast your lifetime. Don't look for thunder to mark this shift. Listen for whispers. Miracles rarely announce themselves. They appear quietly in the obedience of ordinary days. A phone call, a prayer, a moment of forgiveness. These small movements are the proof of something massive unfolding. You are living in the realization of prayers that your ancestors only dreamed. What you carry now will ripple through families, cities, and nations. Revival is no longer a distant hope, it's an active presence, breathing through you, shaping tomorrow. The unseen has become seen. The waited for has arrived. What once felt like prophecy is now participation. You're not waiting for the move of God, you are standing in it. This is the moment heaven has been building toward since your first. Yes, the crown you once imagined isn't made of gold, it's made of endurance, humility, and faith. The glory you now carry isn't loud, it's luminous. It rests quietly, radiating from within. It's happening now, not one day, not someday, but this day. The fulfillment of every whispered promise, the convergence of every hidden preparation, the unveiling of the masterpiece God's been painting with your life. And as the curtain lifts, you finally see it. The design was never random. The journey was never wasted. The waiting was never empty. All along, the unseen hand was composing a story meant to reveal His glory through your surrender. You are the living evidence that what God begins, He completes. The promise has become presence. The prophecy has become reality. Heaven's massive plan is unfolding, and it's happening right here, right now, through you. You've reached the end of this message, but not the end of what it began. Something inside you has awakened a quiet, knowing that heaven is near, and purpose is no longer distant. The words you've heard were not just sounds, they were seeds. And seeds only fulfill their purpose when planted. If what you've felt in these moments has stirred your heart, then let it live beyond this screen. Like this message as a simple act of gratitude, the way you would place a stone of remembrance along a sacred path saying, "I was here, and heaven spoke." Oh, share it as you might pass a torch in the dark, one light to another, one hope to another. You never know whose night your light might shorten. If these words have found home in you, subscribe, not as routine, but as a rhythm, a way to stay connected to what continues to breathe from the same source that met you here. Let this be your return point, the well you come back to when the road feels dry. And if your heart whispers to take part in keeping this light alive, consider giving, not as obligation, but as offering. Think of it as pouring one drop of oil into a lamp that burns for many, ensuring its glow continues for others who have yet to find their way. Every gift, every prayer, every act of kindness becomes a quiet echo in eternity. Leave a comment if these words have touched you, just a few words that say, "I'm part of the light." Let that be your testimony and your thank you to the one who still moves through stories like this. The message may end, but the movement continues. And now, it continues through you.